So I just saw a comment on a comment I had made a while ago about this thing, and someone was like, well, this is a Robophilo. I bought it about a year ago, actually, and you can see the dust on it. Let's see if you can see the dust on it. Yes, you can see the dust on it. It's been collecting dust since about when I bought it. It's not cheap. I mean, it's what is that, 12, 15 inch robot, humanoid robot. They are not cheap. I think it was like $600 and change for everything that I paid. I got, you can see the extra battery hanging out. The robot itself, I got it in kit form because I like to build stuff. What else did I get? Oh, I got the wireless remote controller, which is, do I have it here? Yes. Here's my little parts bin with tools, parts. Look, you can even see the dust on there. It's just been sitting there collecting dust. Now, granted, my house is kind of dusty, but still. The problem is there's something wrong with the board. The manufacturer won't quite listen to me. Doesn't speak enough English to walk me through it. It's a Chinese company, which, alright, you know, it is what it is. What makes this so cheap, I mean, even if it's still a large number of dollars, it's cheap as far as these robots goes. It's got analog servos as opposed to some of the newer digital servos. So the nearest competition's over $2,000, $1,500, $2,000. So it's not like I could just, you know, demand my money back and, you know, get something a little bit more expensive, because there's nothing a little bit more expensive. Even the used stuff that was slightly more expensive is still over $1,000. So $600 tax, tag, and title, whatever, plus the SDK. I mean, it was everything that they could sell me, I bought. So that's what I bought, and then I had problems. Well, let me step back and outline the process a little bit. I bought a kit, so I would need to assemble the robot, and then, wow, that ain't gonna work because I've been shooting it like this the whole time. You buy a kit, you assemble the robot, and then you coarse tune it. Well, that's weird. You coarse tune it by adjusting these things, and then you fine tune it with software. So I coarse tuned it, and then I got to the fine tuning stage, which is where it wound up, and I fine tuned it, but then I tried to send the file. It's a text file, you just send it. And I'm reading the English manual. That's right, that was English with an R in there because it was English made by Chinese people. And I'm sitting there trying every trick I can think of and this, that, and the other, and I can never get it to work. So I call tech support and go back and forth with this guy who's either not listening or not understanding what I'm saying. And you know, we wind up getting nowhere. And I'm like, look, dude, it's brand new. I've had this thing less than a month. I want a new board. I work for an electronics manufacturer. It's, you know, we pamper our clients, and we send them new stuff that you know, doesn't necessarily need it all the time. But in this case, you know, I actually needed it. So I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. Even if they're Chinese, I'm talking to some Chinese people. You know, they're based in California. I should be able to get a new board because it's brand freaking new and it's not working. And well, they kind of told me to kiss off. So I went back and forth. I started, and after a few months, I started looking online. Well, I'd been looking online for help, but I started complaining online in certain message boards here, there, and wherever, and never really getting anywhere. I mean, most people who were interested in Robophilo apparently weren't talking about it online, or at least not anywhere that Google could find. So I was kind of at a loss for help. No one else had encountered anything like this. I wasn't making any progress talking to the manufacturer or his representative in California. And so I started contacting some distributors of the product, thinking, all right, if they sell it, maybe they've got some expertise or something. Well, the most sympathetic one I found was it was a distributor in the UK, and they even emailed Robophilo on behalf of me and said, yeah, it sounds like you should send them a new board. And Robophilo replied back with some English garbage of, well, are you having a lot of problems with these boards? And they were like, no. And if you didn't know, that's an implication that I'm doing something wrong. I work in tech support. I've learned that, you need a good, healthy dose of technical knowledge. You also need a whole lot of communication ability to be able to figure out what the other person is talking about. So they're implying that I'm doing something wrong or stupid. Which, when you look at Chinese people being communists, okay, I can kind of see where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, I still have a board here that I can't upload a file to. So then I started, Robot and Servo magazine, supposedly the big players. I emailed the editors because I'd seen in Maximum PC that you can email magazines, and usually they've got a little bit of weight, and they can pull some stuff. Yeah, and they were about useless. One guy just flat out told me, hey, you should call me, and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And the other guy, I don't think even replied. So the guy from Robot replied, but didn't want to talk via email, and I wound up never calling him. Shortly after I got this, Robot Magazine did an expose or a big article, whatever you want to call it, about Robophilo. And half the shit in the article is just blatantly freaking wrong. I mean, dude doesn't even know what open source is. He's calling the source code open, or the SDK open source. No, it's not open source. It's an SDK. It's closed source. I mean, that's just the most obvious and blatant thing dude freaking lied about. So I haven't renewed my subscription to Robot Magazine. I don't buy Servo Magazine, even though I'd like to pick up both of them. I think it's kind of crazy. And, this whole thing is, I bought this thing a year ago, and, the batteries haven't hardly ever been used. I mean, they're not crazy expensive. They're like $6 or $10 a piece. But now they're dead. I mean, batteries don't like just sitting there. And manufacturer just giving me the normal Chinese apathy, and I'm like, fuck that shit. That's fucked up. So, a new board's like $120 some odd. Okay. So, they won't send me a new board. What they keep trying to tell me is to send this one to them. They keep trying to tell me to send this one to them, so that they will take a look at it and fix it. Now, keep in mind, these are the same people that can't read an email. Told me they'd give me $20 off my order that they have yet to do. And I even mentioned it to them once, and they just kind of ignored me. Oh, I guess I'm stuck. So they want me to send them this board to some dude out in California stand that they're then going to magically, mystically analyze, and if it's broke, they'll replace it. Now, keep in mind, I had the robot built. I assumed, I didn't know any better, but I assumed I could have the robot built, programmed, and be playing with it the day it showed up at work. So it took me a week to put the thing together. But once I got the thing put together, and part of that was the English instructions. I'm all about buying some cheap Chinese stuff and just muscling through, and I ain't ragging them for that. I'm all about capitalism. The Chinese want to be capitalist. That's great. But, I'm going to make fun of some English. And that manual was pretty bad. But I managed to force my way through it and figure it out and get through it. Just this problem with the sending the file to it. So, dude wants me to send him the board. I'm like, I'm not sending this to you. You can barely speak English. There's no RMA process. I'm talking to the manufacturer, and they're telling me to send it to a supposedly the only U.S. distributor, and I'm not getting a good vibe off of this. And I'm thinking it's pretty much just going to disappear, and they're going to tell me to kiss off, and then I'll have to buy a new board, and then I'll be ass out. Then I have to buy a new board, and then go through the trouble of, you see this number here that you've been staring at for a while? Yeah, that's a code. The SDK has to be compiled based, and it's the serial number somehow or something like that. So the SDK that I paid $100 for to be able to interface to it is custom compiled by serial number, so that I can't just hand it out to anybody else. Okay, you want to protect your sale or whatever, that's fine, that's understandable. But at the same time, it's like, well, I've got this freaking robot that is just collecting dust. So I wasn't getting anywhere talking to a magazine or online or directly to the manufacturer. I had tried finding every Robophilo video I could on YouTube and pasting the same comment. That didn't do much for me either. So I filed a complaint with the BBB. And it was the local BBB, so it was out in California stand somewhere. And that wound up not going anywhere either, because, you know, the thing about Chinese apathy is it's stubborn Chinese apathy. And I say that if you've ever dealt with Chinese people, like Chinese people, like from China Chinese, you'll know they pretty much don't give a shit about you. I did some work for some people when I was at college. I had 35 hours worth of work over a week or two or something. Never got a paycheck. You know, I'd show up and just wait in line, and they just, the check's in the mail, or you got to talk to so-and-so, or this, that, and the other, some crazy story. And, well, you know, at the time, that was $200 in college. You know, that was like 10 years ago, so it was worth a little bit more than $200 is now. And that was a good chunk of change. And, yeah, so I don't, yeah, and it's the same thing here. You know, they don't care. I mean, they already made their sale. And you can just call it bad customer service, but I'm going to call it Chinese apathy. So, they pretty much said the same thing over and over again at the BBB. And over the course of several months, it went back and forth with the BBB. And I think right now it's currently at a status of customer did not go along with the resolution offered by the seller, which they haven't budged one bit about sending in the board. Which, I mean, that's just pure laziness. I'm sure I've consumed more than $120 worth of labor on their end in harassing them about this stuff. I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing. My intent, at a certain point, it was, alright, motherfucker, now I'm going to get a new board, you know, regardless of what you said, just because you're being a dick. And, you know, I realize that not everyone can be the company that I work for that replaces stuff that's even completely out of warranty, you know, or has great customer service. But, I mean, there comes a certain point in time where you've got to have customer service. What's really weird about this is I don't see much talk about it online. It's still something they sell. I mean, there's a whole lot of people that buy them. I mean, I wonder if it's just maybe little kids or something, but then, I don't know. When I started asking for help about this, I was talking to the guy, Philip Chan, and I'm like, look, why don't we set up a screen sharing session, which is something I do at work often. You can take a look at my computer and make sure I'm doing it right. I don't know if he ignored me or didn't understand what I was saying, but he never took me up on that. I tried, how many computers was it? I think 5 or 6 different computers. I mean, it uses, this is a, it's not a standard. It doesn't work. Hey, there we go. That's a 232 COM port. So, well, I'll just leave it on. So, you got to have a RS-232 adapter. Well, I've got some machines that have hardware COM ports and some that don't. And I work with stuff that uses COM ports. So I considered myself at least passably proficient in connecting via COM port. I could never really figure out, from what he was telling me, how to use a program other than his own to get the thing working, like HyperTerminal. Couldn't figure that out. I'm not sure if I just couldn't read it right or wasn't hacker enough to make use of what he told me. But that didn't work. I tried it. It didn't work. What else happened? Oh, so I tried lots of different computers. He didn't take me up on the screen sharing session. What else did we try? Oh, firmware and stuff. So supposedly, according to the Robot Magazine's article, the firmware is available on the website. This is a horribly designed website. I mean, there's some files up there, but I never found any firmware. Supposedly, I think the dude tried to say he emailed me the firmware, and I saw, I think he sent me the new version of the firmware, but maybe not the original. I mean, half of our emails back and forth was him trying to tell me to set up a Windows Live account so he could send me a file because Gmail was blocking it. I'm like, dude, Gmail doesn't block stuff like that. What are you trying to send me that Gmail is blocking it? And I don't think he ever managed to send me the file he was sending. I put it off the website or something. I mean, I told him time and again, use something like Mediafire and send me the link. And I don't know if he's stupid or if we weren't communicating right or maybe it was both. I don't know. It didn't work. So for a while now, I've been thinking about just buying a new board and then maybe sending this one back to see if I could get it repaired or fixed or replaced, or just get my money back. But then I have to deal with getting the SDK swapped over. I'm like, this is killing me here. The other week I tried calling the BBB, and I think the lady called me back. So apparently I've got to call her back now. I don't know where that's going, and I need to figure out what I can do about this, because this is kind of ridiculous. You know, it's been a year since I got this thing, and I was all excited about it. This was going to be my first foray into robotics. I've been wanting to do robotics since I knew that there were robots. And, you know, when I was little, I'd take apart robot toys and make robots out of them. And then I was always talking about getting into robotics, but never did anything about it. So this was going to be my first foray into robots. I mean, it was a kit. I bought the SDK. I was thinking maybe I could put the iPhone on the back with like a serial port or something to get a camera, like over-the-shoulder camera, maybe like a missile launcher. I could do all kinds of stuff. I know, it's been sitting here collecting dust for a year. Which kind of pisses me off because I had come up with an idea prior to this, or actually my friend came up with it, and I found the means, money, and parts to do so, to make a remote control lawnmower, which if you've ever watched anything on my YouTube channel, you've probably seen a whole lot of stuff about that recently. So the RC lawnmower is my second foray into robotics. And dude, that thing went together like a piece of cake. Well, I mean, you don't really assemble pieces of cake, but you know what I'm saying. This ain't working. RC lawnmower, which involved cutting, welding, parts acquisition, design. I had to figure out the electronics. And compared to this, which everything was in a kit and it had instructions, and you just put it together. I mean, the hardest thing was figuring out the what screws it was talking about, because they were labeled wrong. You know, like these. It was just freaking labeled wrong. I mean, that goes back to English. You know, I don't mind a little bit of pain in the ass dealing with something from China, but I mean, this was a kit, and I made something from scratch before, and it went together easier, works. I mean, I actually need to go out and mow the lawn with it. But I'm really not happy with the way this turned out. And I'm thinking the only way I'm going to get anything is to buy another board. This way I can then risk losing this one. Because their response is they don't understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about losing the board. They think I'm talking about it getting lost in transit. I'm like, no, I am not worried about UPS losing the board. UPS, I can get a tracking number and insurance. But once it leaves UPS's hand, and enters this random shop without an RMA number, without people that can speak English, without people who can professionally do business. I mean, who's to say that board's going to even get looked at, or if Bubba, Joe, whatever, is just going to look at it, say, yeah, it looks fine, and send it back to me, it's going to have the same problem. Or any number of things. I mean, I don't see the success ratio of sending this board to them at this point without any kind of RMA number, system tracking number, or any more of a brief description of what to do, and the fact they can't tell me anything over the phone. I mean, I don't see that going well. Which is a shame, because I mean, this is the robot that I want. It's at the price I want. You know, they've got a cool gripper thing that can replace this little plastic thing, which is cool. They've got an upgrade kit to add some weight here. This way it walks a little bit better, which is cool. I mean, those are all things I want to do, and I want to get into robotics. And my first foray into robotics was that, you know, okay, I'm the customer, fuck me. What the fuck is that shit? I mean, robotics seems geared towards little kids who have parents with lots of money. And I'm like, dude, I want to make real robots. And what the fuck? You know, I go to Dragon Con, robotics is hardly represented. When I was at college the first time, I was part of a robot thing that never really took off because I really didn't know how to do anything. I mean, it was BattleBots type stuff, and those aren't even robots. They're freaking RC cars. It's just like, I don't get it. You know, it's like online dating. But I'm not going to go there at this point. So that's my rant about Robophilo. I'll probably add more to it. Maybe let you see my ugly face one time instead of the robot. So like professional YouTubers say, if you have any comments, make sure you comment, or if you know anything about Robophilo, put it in the comment section below.